Good afternoon. Welcome in to Locked On Sports Atlanta for another edition of our Locked On Sports Atlanta Hangout. I'm Mark Zinno. I'm joined by John Chuckery of Hitting Hard. Jarvis Davis of ATL Day Ones is once again, like Voltron, we come together to bring you the ultimate sports show surrounded by Atlanta sports. Gentlemen, good day to you. How is everybody doing?
Doing really well, Mark. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate that, man.
Nobody complains on Friday, right? Like nobody complains on Friday. And we got paid, so nobody complains on Friday.
First time listener, first time hosting. Yeah, let's do it, man.
Listen, there's a lot to get to. It's great to be with everybody again. You know, this is the second iteration of our Locked On ATL Hangout, so where we all come together. You guys have, if you follow us here on Locked On at Locked On ATL, and you know, see all the different shows. We try to come together once a month where we just put all the brain trust together and have some great discussion about what's going on here in Atlanta sports. So iteration number 2 of this, we do give a moment of silent and pause for Sweet Tea, Tanisha Batiste, who's not with us today, also part of our Locked On Sports Atlanta network, but she'll be back for our next iteration. We promise that. All right, let's get into it here, gentlemen, as we start. Atlanta Falcons heading into their third preseason game. And I guess, I mean, I think the Deion Jones thing itself is a whole different conversation that we'll get into later. But, you know, I am somebody, and I've said this routinely on A to Z, like, I don't look for anything in preseason games. Like, I don't care. I don't think there's anything to glean from this stuff. I don't have much. I don't think there's much translation from what I see in a preseason game to the regular season. But there has only been kind of one thing that I've really been monitoring and watching that I saw from the first preseason game to the second preseason game. And at least in the second preseason game, I saw quarterbacks who stayed in the pocket and didn't run. Because at the end of the day, you know, the best playmaker on this offense is Kyle Pitts. The second best playmaker may be Drake London. The third best playmaker might be Cordero Patterson. You know who I know the best playmaker isn't? Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder. So it's their job to get the ball in the hands of their best playmaker, and I want to see more of that than anything else. Taking off and running for 6 yards on 3rd and 5, that's great. It's wonderful. But it's not a recipe for winning 4 quarters of a football game. You've got to get the ball to other people who can make things happen. And for me, that's the only thing I really care about from an offensive standpoint.
Well, also, too, is you got to be able to block for those guys, too, right? I mean, that's the other thing. Like, the thing that I've really watched is tell me what our offensive line is going to look like, right? I mean, you know, there's one position left, that's center. And I was here, and Jarvis was here when it was James Stone and Mike Person. And literally, they couldn't, when Matt was in shotgun, they literally couldn't snap the football to him. He had to have a baseball glove and scoop it off the turf. You don't want to be bad, you know, at certain positions on your offensive line. So the center battle, to me, which Arthur Smith's made it clear, we're not going to know what's going to happen with that spot until we get into game week. But I want to see somebody take the lead in that. I want to see somebody go win it. Right now, nobody's going out there and winning it. It's attrition right now that's happening at center. Yeah, McGarry's won the right tackle spot. He's legitimately won that, you know. Wilkinson, I think by default, is left guard, but nobody's tried to win the center job. I want to see somebody go out there and run somebody over at that spot and tell me that they want to win the job. So I'm with you, Mark. I mean, I don't want my quarterbacks running all around. Part of that running around was because they're going to get their head caved in if they don't run around and get something done.
And I think that's one of the reasons why Arthur Smith offense kind of fits what he wants. These guys want to fit what he wants to do as far as Desmond Ridder and Marcus Mariota, because let's face it, like Arthur Smith has had success with pretty mediocre quarterbacks in this league, right? Because I think that he's an excellent play caller. I think he puts his quarterbacks in situations where they're going to be able to have easy decisions to make. If it's not there, 1 to 2 reads, and then you take off with the football, because that's going to help your offense, going to help move the chains, keep your defense off the field. I think all of those things are part of Arthur Smith's plan for this offense to be better. But I do think there is something that you can glean from preseason, right? Because I think I've seen, you know, Matt Hennessy kind of take the reins with that position, because we don't necessarily haven't been really calling his name, right? We saw last year there were a lot of leaks up in the middle. Like we saw Matt Hennessy, holding, penalty, you know, hold a dude if you're going to get beat like that. We think we saw a lot of things last year, and I don't think we necessarily seeing that. But I think Drew Dahmer did have a solid game this past week, but there still was some things that I think he needs to get better on. So I'd rather get a guy in there that you don't necessarily call his name for anything bad. And if that's the case with the offensive lineman, that's all you really ask for.
I mean,
Mark, let me say one thing, Mark, to you. But besides having Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, you know what else Arthur Smith had? He had Jack Conklin and Taylor Lewan and guys like that to just run people over.
Some dudes.
It's easy to have a great running game when those guys are leading the way up front too.
Yeah, and to your point, like I have resigned to the fact from the offensive line, this is on Arthur Smith. He's got to scheme his way out of this. That's all you can do.
That's fair.
That's all he can do. Like you know what you're working with. Every offensive coordinator, every play caller in the last 3 seasons in Atlanta has understood that this is a major deficiency from a talent standpoint. Save left tackle. You've got questions, and maybe McGarry's getting a little bit better, but you've got questions across the board on the offensive line. So from that standpoint, it's on the coach and the coaching staff to be able to figure out a way to get positive yardage and not get yourself in 3rd and 7 every time because you're getting stuffed in the run. I don't know what that answer is. It may be very tough. It may be a situation that they are going to struggle with. But at the end of the day, there is so much more, I think, in general on Arthur Smith this year than it is on the talent. And this is, guys, I can guarantee you this will be the post-mortem conversation we'll have on the 2022 season. There'll be somebody like me saying, I got to blame Arthur Smith. He knew what he had talent-wise. He knew he couldn't scheme out of it, couldn't push the right buttons. And people will say, well, when he gets better talent, he'll be able to do that. Which came first, the chicken or the egg, right? Are you a good coach because you know how to scheme, or are you a good coach because you have good players? And I think that'll be the post-mortem conversation on this season. I have to trust that Arthur Smith, if he's as good as we think he is, and he's as talented as we think he is of a head coach, it goes beyond having Taylor Lewan, Jack Conklin, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, right? Like there's got to be some measure of it's got to go beyond that, because I feel like he would have been exposed a little bit last year because he didn't have any of those guys last year. And for good, bad, or indifferent, they still managed to win 10 games. And I don't think it was all Matt Ryan. Like I know the quarterback matters, but Matt didn't win 7 games on his own. There were other things that went on in those games that helped him win.
Well, the big difference is look at what they were in 1-score games. They were dreadful under Dan Quinn in 1-score games, and they turned that around in a year. So I'm with you, Mark. Look,
there'll be some regression there this year, though.
Right. We're going to learn more about Arthur Smith and Dean Pease and what those guys can do, because they don't have all the talent. They don't have all the players that they want out there. They are going to have to coach better. And look, Arthur's trying to learn too. Look, he's going to have to be better. Timeouts, clock management, all the stuff that Dan never got better at as the years went on. They were just as bad in year 6 as they were in year 1 and all that. So he's going to have to figure out some things as well. But I'm with you. Part of why they won 7 games last year is they did coach better, and they were, look, say what you will under Dan. They were awful teams in the second half of games. If you look at their third quarter scoring and where they ranked in the NFL and how many points they gave, they would come out of halftime and they would get run over by a lot of teams. They changed that, and they changed up their, dynamic in 1-score games. So I'm with you. They're going to have to coach a lot better this year if they are going to be competitive. I don't know if they can even get to 7 wins or not, but if they get to 6 or 7 wins, hell, Arthur Smith might be the coach of the year in the NFL.
I said the same thing. Look, if they with this roster, which generally everybody agrees, even though I don't, it's one of the worst in the NFL. Like there was a position grouping thing done by ESPN.com. Every Falcons position group, with the exception of corner, tight end, and D-line, which obviously is AJ Terrell, Kyle Pitts, and Grady Jarrett, was in the bottom 5, if not dead last. So if Arthur Smith can get this to a 6 or 7 win team with Marcus Mariota at quarterback, that is the coach of the year job, if you ask me.
I wholeheartedly agree, because the thing that I think Chuck made an interesting point, because the biggest difference between this coaching staff from Dan Quinn's staff is that these guys are going to make adjustments by hook or by crook, whether they were wrong or right in coming into a preparation for something. And I think the prime example of that is when Arthur Smith decided to play the starters this year, because he decided not to do that last year. And he's saying, what, that was a mistake. I understand what it is. Now, whether or not that would have helped us beat the Philadelphia Eagles in the opener, I don't know, but I know that I need to have my guys out there to kind of see what you have a good idea of what you're going to go into, right?
Joint practices are also for that. I mean, people wanted to do the joint practices are where the ones get all their reps, so I can play the 2s and the 3s in an actual game and get more game tape on them per se. Because if I have to play the starters, that's less looks I have at the guys who might be 45 through 53 on the final roster. So the ones get all the reps in these practices, which is why they do them. And get less reps in the game, so you can see the other guys longer. So I think he's taking a different angle preparation-wise. Let's see if it pays dividends week 1 against the Saints. I mean, I don't know that necessarily it will. However, I am taking the Falcons with the points in week 1, which is there's a trend there, guys. There is a trend. You can find trends.
There we go.
You can find trends on this stuff at betonline.net. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. They have reviews and news on every league. Obviously, Major League Baseball winding down. They're going to start heading to the playoffs. Get some great info there. NFL winding up as we are talking about. NBA right around the corner. NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information. Live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts, they've got you covered. Live in-game betting is a lot of fun. You don't have to be an expert at it. There is really no secret formula. You just kind of watch the flow of the game and try to be predictive about what's going to happen. So you can head on BetOnline today. Use your mobile device. You can learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. And wrapping things up here, guys, on the Falcons, it'll be interesting to see how this team starts. They have a very, very tough schedule. No one's going to be surprised if they struggle from a win and loss standpoint. But I'm not measuring win and losses for this team. I'm just measuring competitiveness. Are they competitive in games? Can they keep them close? I think that's really the only thing that matters.
Yeah, going out on the West Coast early on when you got back-to-back West Coast games, that's not good for any team in the NFL to have to go out to LA and Seattle early on. But I'm with you. I mean, look, I've got to see that there is some kind of style and philosophy to what they do, and are we going to be better? So look, if they're another 18 sack team, this thing will be, they'll be drafting in the top 1 or 2 or 3 next year. If their quarterback play just falls off a cliff, they'll be drafting in the top 1 or 2 or 3.
And I think that's the one of the things that you have to kind of keep in mind is like the progression of the defense, right? Because like you said, they're not sacking the quarterback, they're not doing anything, they're not getting better, and then that's then you got to start questioning the personnel evaluation, because if you continue to bring in guys and using second and third round draft picks on guys that can't do what you drafted them to do, that's when you start to have another conversation. And I don't think we want to have that this early.
The bottom line is there are 2 categories that statistically change things offensively for teams. The touchdown rate when you don't give up a sack versus when you do give up a sack is a phenomenal difference. And when you do have a penalty versus when you don't have a penalty. And the analytics nerds really dive into this, what happens when you have a penalty or a sack on an offensive drive and what it does to impact it versus what happens when you're clean. So we'll see if they can control the things they can control in those areas. All right, let's shift gears here to the Atlanta Braves as they continue their march towards the postseason here. And, look, if you were to talk to us back on May 31st, nobody might have ever thought we would have been here. But here we are, the Braves sitting there, striking distance of first place, and getting ready to go into a big weekend series here with the Cardinals. Look, here's the thing with the Braves right now. They have what we call good problems, right? 2 games out of first right now, but they have a lot of guys who can play and a lot of guys who are hitting well. And how do they get them all in the lineup? That said, you guys know me. I love to throw out hypotheticals and debate and everything else. I just toss this around because of the way Vaughn Grissom is playing as of late. And it's a problem that Brian Snitker is going to have to deal with here in the next 30 days when Ozzie Albies comes back. What do you do with Vaughn Grissom and where does he play? And, the hypothetical was if Dansby Swanson resigns next year, who does Alex Anthopoulos trade? Is it Vaughn Grissom or Ozzie Albies? I found it laughable that there was actually 41% of people who wanted to trade Ozzie Albies. In a poll that got a lot of response. This is an all-star second baseman, a Gold Glove caliber defender, a great top of the order guy who can steal bases. And 41% of the people who voted.
And he has the greatest contract from an organizational standpoint ever. The cheapest contract ever.
Not only that, guys, for a guy who has played 20 games in the majors, like that to me was even more laughable. That said, again, what do you do when because Ozzie Albies is not returning to the lineup to be a platoon second baseman or a platoon DH. He's coming back to be an everyday starter. That's why he's here. That's why he got the contract. That's why he got an 8-year deal, because he's an everyday second baseman. So how does Brian Snitker handle this good problem that he has in getting Vaughn Grissom in the lineup, whether it's at DH or, get this, guys, ready? You just move people to left field because it's been done before. Because Chipper Jones once played left field, and he's in the Hall of Fame. So obviously Vaughn Grissom is going to the Hall of Fame because he can play left field too. But figure this out for me, guys.
Yeah, people, and this is funny to your point. People think that Major League Baseball is beer league softball, right? It's like you and your buddies at 3:00 in the afternoon in Decatur that we got a double header, then we're going for burgers and beers afterward.
Shout out to the East
And
Side.
I'll play third base in game 1 and I'll run out the left field in game 2. It's funny. I had a chance last night to talk to Andrew Jones and I asked him this. I was like, and I talked to Vaughn Grissom as well, asked them both the same question. Everybody wants to just throw him out in left field because, again, we've seen Rob Deere and Jose Canseco, but those guys also played the position. Like, they understand. And remember about Chipper, to your point, Mark, remember, he got a chance to spend the whole offseason getting ready to play left field because they brought Vinny Castilla in to play third base, and he had the offseason to get ready. You're not throwing a guy out that's never played that position in the middle of a pennant race to just go out there and do it. Now, to your point about what they're going to do, Snickers, look, Snickers' best quality is also at times his biggest fault. That's his loyalty to his players. You know, he is hyper loyal to certain guys, and then that also bites him in the butt at times. You have to play Ozzie, and Grissom will kind of, and I hate to say it this way, but it will sort of work itself. Because don't forget, you got Arcia coming back too, another guy that they're going to have on their bench that can play in the infield. I'm not for trading anybody, even in the offseason. I think you figure some things out. And to your point, it's a good problem to have. But before I start moving guys and I start throwing a guy in left and I start throwing a guy here and doing all this kind of stuff, let me get my lineup together first, right? Let me get all my guys, you know, that I'm supposed to have here. And then I'll have, it's the same thing they had with Contreras, right? I mean, everybody's like, well, how are you going to play Contreras? Well, it worked itself out. Ozuna stinks and he's arrested. So guess what? He can play a lot more DH now and stuff like that, even though he's your backup catcher. So these things sort of have a way of working themselves out, whether good, bad, injury, whatever like that. They sort of find their way back on the road and kind of get down that right path.
I think the one thing that Chuck brought up is that the fact that I think Brian Snitker has done a pretty damn good job of making these decisions, right? Like, and I'm in a space where I trust him to make that decision. And I think that it's pretty easy once you think about it in the now, if you're thinking it from the now standpoint. Of course, Ozzie Albies is going to go back in there. Of course, you know, you're going to keep Vaughn Grissom on the roster and figure it out. You just figure out a way to get this dude on the field, whether it's be Contreras, you know, sitting down. If you're giving Darno a day off or whatever, you're gonna have Contreras behind the plate and you drop on Vaughn Grissom in a DH spot, but you don't like Chuck said, you do not throw him out there in the left field because like it's not like, you know, this is the Pittsburgh Pirates and you're just trying to figure some things out and towards the end of the season, you're damn trying to go for back-to-back World Series and you need to know exactly what you're gonna get once you put anybody's name in that damn lineup.
But by the way, whether it's now in a pennant race or heading into next season, what if Vaughn Grissom doesn't want to play left field? Like that's a realistic possibility. You go, no, I'm not playing left field. I'm a I'm a shortstop or a second baseman or a third. I'm an infielder. I don't want to play the outfield. Okay, that's okay for him to say that. Like, it's not against the rules. And people, well, he's not a team player. Now we should trade his ass. Like that. I mean, like he's allowed to not want to play the outfield and learn a new position. And everybody naturally thinks, well, if that's what he has to do to stay in the bigs, and that's what he has to. No, he doesn't have to.
Well, because everybody thinks it's fantasy sports, Mark.
Right.
I mean,
you just drop him in there and do what you do.
Yeah, I can just, I'm managing my own team.
The names I got called on Twitter yesterday for asserting the idea that Vaughn Grissom couldn't play left field was or even didn't want to play left field was long and distinguished, to say the least.
Well, because they're going to go down to Decatur. They're going to Decatur with their buddies on Saturday, and they're going to play softball. And then they're headed over to Grindhouse or Lucky's to go get some burgers and beer. And look what we did on Saturday.
Yeah. Hey, listen, man. If you can do it at beer league softball, everybody can.
That sounds like fun right there, Chuck.
Yeah, wouldn't be bad. When are we going to do a hangout at a beer league softball?
I think
let's do that.
I think I asked this question last time we did this, guys, and I want to ask it again to see if anybody's opinions have changed. The playoffs start tomorrow. It doesn't matter the order. Who are your top three starters for the Braves?
Wow. I would have to go.
Max Fried's my game one guy. He's the best left-hander.
Right. Well, Max Fried is obviously. So who are 2 and 3?
I'll take Kyle Wright number 2. And I'll take Charlie Morton number 3.
I'm going, man. I'm gonna say what first popped in my mind. Max Fried, Kyle Wright, and Spencer Strider. I don't know why that popped in my head, but I know Charlie Moore's been pitching really well lately, but I'm just like, man, I would love to see him line him up, man. Line him up.
Not pitching Spencer Strider in the first 3 games of a playoff series. Just not doing it.
You think Snicker will do that?
No, I think Snicker
he won't.
Snicker will sit down Strider in favor of Charlie Moore.
Right.
Yeah.
He'll go with Charlie, definitely.
Yeah. Like that loyalty you talked about. Yeah.
Right. Strider will pitch a game 4. Like he'll pitch a game 4, no doubt about it. He'll get started.
Yeah, but that's if the situation merits it, right? Like, so are you? If you're down 1-2 in a series, are you giving the ball to Spencer Strider?
But Mark, the way the playoffs are now, like there's not much time in between games.
Well, in a 7-game series, there is. In a 5-game series, you're right. There's not.
But I mean, but if you look, you're like on one day, off the next, on. I mean, you don't have like the 3. It's not like the NBA where like they play on Tuesday and then Wednesday of the next week they finally play their next game. They go pretty quick, so you're kind of. That's why these teams are like you see in the scrap. They're always pitching some vagabond that they just had to make as their their opener.
Okay,
because
so if you'd like to slice and dice this a little bit, it may be more advantageous to start Strider in a game 3, unless you are down 0-2, right? If you're 1-1 or up 2-0, right? I would go with Strider in that spot. I know this. If I'm down 1-2, for me as a manager, it's tough for me to give a ball in a 5-game series, especially give the ball to a rookie to go save my season.
That's fair.
I think that is the spot where Strider gets a bump above Moore. And again, a lot of this is flexible. I always just think this is a fun conversation to have based off of what people value. But that's why, more than anything, I'd start Strider in game 2. He has got the best stuff on this staff, and I don't think that's debatable. He's not the best pitcher on the staff. He's got the best stuff on the staff. His stuff is the most swing and miss, most unhittable stuff out there. So
I just think it's when you look at what Kyle Wright has done, you can't dumb your way to 6-5 or 16-5 and under 3 ERA and almost 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. I mean, he's been outstanding. Like nobody had on their bingo card him winning 20 games this year for this team. So look, again, he may not have the stuff that Strider does, but he's got plenty of moxie, and he's going to go out there and he's going to make sure you got a chance to win every time he gets the ball out there. You don't have to worry about one of those 3-inning, 5-run, 89 pitch types of outings from Kyle Wright. He goes out there and he's gonna what did he throw the other night? Like 73 pitches or whatever.
It was ridiculous. Yeah,
I mean, that's the other thought about
in fairness, Tucker, you could throw 73 pitches against the Pirates and probably get 15 outs. So that's neither here nor there.
That's another fair statement.
Oh man, great wake me up. You know what else is a great wake me up? Coffee AM, guys. We talk about this product all the time because it is fantastic. I'll never forget.
Right now.
There you go. I just had got on here. I'll never forget when the box came to my house and I opened it up and the smell just like hits you straight in the face. It is
was that not the greatest thing ever?
The whole house smelled like coffee. And why is it so fresh? Because they roast and ship their coffees on the same day or very close to it. And here's the crazy part too. They get them from all over the world, guys. Do you know where Tanzania is? Do you know where Sumatra is? Most people don't, but the coffee.
That's the Phillies AAA affiliate.
The coffee from there is amazing. It's organic. It's fair trade, direct trade. They're expertly crafted blends of espressos, flavored coffees, gourmet teas, and a whole lot more. And they're roasted right here in our backyard, right in Atlanta. So go to coffeeam.com/locked-on and take a full look at the Phillies AAA farm system. No, I mean, they're full of coffees, teas, and gift sets. It's coffeeam.com/locked-on. Use the coupon code locked-on at checkout. You'll get 15% off your first order of coffees, teas, gift sets, and a whole lot more. Coffeeam.com, the best small batch coffee roaster in America, and it's right here in Atlanta. All right. Speaking of wake me ups, we're wondering if Deion Jones is going to need to wake me up here. And the real simple question to ask, guys, is what is the plan with Deion? Clearly, we know that they wanted to trade him. Clearly, we know that they were trying to get rid of him. They found no takers. And so, much like Kevin Durant in Brooklyn, we had to put our arms back around him and say, hey, man, come be one of us. I still think there is a fantastic opportunity to get him traded, probably maybe after week 1, when salary cap things change a little bit. And 2, prior to the deadline. I still think the ultimate goal is to move on from Deion Jones. Clearly, Dean Pease doesn't see him as a centerpiece of this defense. Clearly, Dean Pease doesn't see him as the guy who can anchor this defense, because if he did, he would have made that known already. If you look at Dean Pease's track record, what did he have? Oh, he had Teddy Bruschi in the middle in New England. They win Super Bowls. He had Ray Lewis in the middle in Baltimore. They win Super Bowls, right? Like, he has those anchors, and traditionally he's had those anchors in the middle. He's not his guy. So I can't still envision him being here long.
I was gonna say I thought the comments from Arthur Smith about he's gonna have trouble getting on the field with all the competition we got here. And I'm thinking about 3 years ago, nobody would have said that about Deion Jones, about he'd have trouble getting on the field. And to your point, I don't think he fits the profile of what Dean Pease wants. That's why they brought Rashaan Evans and Kwiatkowski and guys like that in here. But the idea that the head coach came out and said, and this is a guy who, let's face it, for a handful of years has been one of the stalwarts on your defense. I mean, 3-4 years ago, he was looked at as the ideal linebacker in the NFL. Now you're talking about now you're talking about
an all-pro. We're talking about all-pro.
I don't know if he can get on the field because of the competition. I'm thinking to myself, with all due respect, it ain't like they've got Jack Lambert and Ray Lewis running around on the field right now that's taken. I mean, I love Michael Walker, but Michael Walker ain't done a third of the things that Deion Jones has done in the NFL. And we're talking about he's having trouble getting on the field. I'm with you, Mark. I don't think he's going to be here week one.
I think they want him to play and show that he can play and hopefully try to dump him for a late round pick.
Yeah.
Even Dean Pease said coming into the season when he was getting ready and having those press conferences and everything, he said himself, he was like, I looked at Michael Walker. I knew last year, once the season ended, that I knew that Michael Walker was going to be my signal caller going into the season. Like, come on now. And that was before we even found out about the offseason. Shoulder surgery, all that stuff. These guys had moved on from Deion Jones. Yes. They had moved on. They just couldn't trade him.
Help himself out. He played like dog piss last year. Like, just general lack of effort at the entire position. There's multiple, pieces of film on it. You could see he was just lazy. He didn't move. Like, he mentally checked out, and it's cost him a shot to get a starting job back in this league. I mean, now he has no value.
Mark, I want to ask you a question because, and Jarvis and I have talked about this. I think because it was just basically a shoulder cleanup is what he had done, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You couldn't have done that on Valentine's Day. You couldn't have done that 1st of March. They timed and all conspiracy
it was perfect
theory,
timing, man.
They timed everything out to miss OTAs, put them on the PUP list, and they timed out everything to not have to force him on the field, to not have to answer questions about where is he, why is he not in the whatever. They timed all this out for a reason. I don't think they just arbitrarily said, okay, now go get your shoulder cleaned up and because they could have done that again on Valentine's Day. That could have been his Valentine's Day present.
They could have done it the second week of January for crying out loud.
Easily.
Yeah. Hey, Happy New Year. Get your shoulder cleaned up. I mean, they could have done it any time that they wanted, but everything waited until, now it's mandatory minis. Now he's going to get his shoulder cleaned up.
Well, and to your point, I mean, he didn't go through the team for this surgery. Like, this wasn't done by the team doctors. This wasn't done through the Falcons. He went on his own to go get this thing cleaned up and told the Falcons after the fact about it. So that in and of itself lends to conspiracy theories as to why you did that when theoretically, you have health insurance, from your team, and they're supposed to take care of all this stuff so they can track it all. That in and of itself, when you go rogue like that and find your own doctor, you have a bad relationship with the team. That's at a minimum. That's what that means. You don't trust the team doctors. You don't trust the trainers. You don't trust the staff, that you're going out to somewhere else to get this thing done. So I agree with you. And yes, the timing of it was absolutely planned to do it. And I don't necessarily know if it's about, missing OTAs as much as it was about, like, you're untradeable when you're hurt. It's really hard to trade a player. And so he waited until March when free agency hit and everything else, that all the chips fell where they may and everybody had somebody. Then you get, you report the surgery just prior to free agency because I can't trade you before. And once free agency hits, it's like, let me go get a guy who's cheaper, who probably can do the same thing, who's not injured, as opposed to giving away an asset and trading for a guy who actually hits my salary cap and costs a lot more. So yeah, I think all of that was part of the plan of Deion Jones to stall this process as long as he could until he was ready to be traded. And the big
is this mic on? Let me tell you something. Let me tell y'all something. I think like both parties are being calculated, right? Because we know how the Falcons are big on perception, right? They don't like bad stuff. They don't like bad press. They being said about them. So
years of any team in the NFL.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. A lot of beat writers for a lot of NFL teams would probably say the exact same thing. But I think that both parties said that, hey, we're gonna work this situation out to our advantage. That's why Deion Jones's camp, they delayed that surgery as much as possible. And from the Falcon side of it, they was just like, you know what, go ahead, do your thing, and we're gonna put you on this PUP list, or we're gonna have to answer any questions about you. And I think that but things are gonna come to a head, because when you talk about NFL veterans, salaries being guaranteed once the season starts and all that stuff, that's when you're gonna have to. There's gonna be a crunch time to come with this situation, because that's why I think that we may see Deion Jones play a little bit tomorrow, because so teams can say, you know what, oh, he is healthy, so let's see what he got. Let's have a conversation about, you know, what makes sense from a trade standpoint.
And Mark, to your point too, let me tell you, that Emory Healthcare facility they built at their training campsite, man, when I tell you that thing is state of the art, and I talked to some of the Falcons personnel and was asking, like, why didn't y'all have this before? And I'm not going to say what they told me, but that place is as state of the art as you. They don't have to go offsite for MRIs. They don't have to do anything anymore. They can literally stay right there in Flowery Branch and handle anything that you've got coming up out there. I mean, it is high caliber. And, you know, Arthur Blank isn't going to do anything, you know, on the cheap, whatever like that. That facility is amazing. So to your point, they don't have to have anybody go anywhere. They can do everything they want right there at their facility in Flowery Branch.
Yeah. And again, at this point, you know, I don't know what the desire of the organization is to hold on to this and drag this out and make it uglier than what it needs to be. I've said this routinely, guys, especially in sports, but this is also like, you know, in life. If you make a bad business decision, a bad investment, the minute you know it's a bad investment, cut bait and get the hell out. Right. There's no reason to double down on a bad investment or a bad business decision by dragging it out even longer. The minute you know a coach doesn't work, fire him. The minute you know a player is done, get rid of him. The minute you know that something doesn't work from a marketing standpoint, stop doing it. Like, there's no reason to continue to drag. All it's going to do is be a cloud over the, you know, when you're saying we hope a guy isn't a distraction, he's already a distraction. Like, you've already hit the point that it's a distraction when you have to announce out loud, we don't think he's going to be a distraction. You're distracted. So, like, none of this ends well, and we all know how it ends. What the hell are you waiting for? Just cut the guy and let some
law.
Yeah, right.
Cocktail. Nothing ends well, or it wouldn't end.
Right. So, like, what are we doing here? Like, I just don't see the point to try and drag this out and hope that it you know, you get a 6th round draft pick for the guy. Screw it. Just cut him and be done with this. You're eating the cap money anyway.
And I think one of the things that, it's
Go ahead, Jarvis.
No, I was just gonna say that, you know, I think it was like the number was, I think they will only save $1 million if they were to cut them. Like, I mean, like you said, because what's the best compensation? Like Mark said, a 6th round draft pick. Who gives a crap about a 6th round draft pick? You've moved on.
I don't think they want I think part of it is what you guys said. I don't think they want the PR hit of saying, well, we just cut Deion Jones, who's been a stalwart for your defense. And let's face it, when you interview Falcons players, there were like 3 guys. You talked to Grady, Deion Jones, Ricardo Allen. For years, that's the guys you talk to. He's been one of the faces of your franchise. Good, bad, or otherwise, say whatever you want about it as a player. But he's been one of the faces of your franchise and one of the mouthpieces. And the idea of just cutting him for no compensation or whatever, I don't think they want that look. I don't think that I think that's part of it, is they just don't want the. You know,
it's a worse look when Deion Jones, after he does finally get cut or traded, comes out and dumps on the organization and everything that they did wrong. Oh, yeah. That's an even worse look.
Yeah, and put him in a bad spot to be able to latch on with somebody else.
So
yeah, I mean, just Dan Quinn, just make the call. Chuck, go ahead and call DQ up and tell him, like, hey, man, come get your boy, because everybody want to move on, and it's time to go ahead and make this situation right, man.
For an organization, if you're worried about the bad look for Deion Jones over the bad look of Deshaun Watson and Matt Ryan, Deion Jones isn't a bad look. So let's just forget. And this is why sometimes this Falcons PR team is so
it's a
bad.
Sweet 16 party compared to the Deshaun Watson case.
The communications department lacks so much. Like, you can't get much of a worse bad look than dumping the best quarterback and the best player in your entire franchise's history for a guy who had that going on with Deshaun Watson. Yep. Like, you don't get a worse look than that. What are we doing?
I'll say this, Mark, and I've said this consistently. The Falcons didn't move on from Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan moved on from the Falcons. Matt Ryan said, you know what? Let me go find me a better spot. Let me go find me a new place. Because I'll say this. 10 years ago, Arthur Blank wouldn't have gone down that road to go get a Deshaun Watson. He wouldn't have done it. Say what you will about Arthur. A decade ago, when he was still kind of without the cancer and without where he's at in life and all, he wouldn't have gone and gone for a move. Even if he needed a quarterback, they wouldn't have gone down a road like that. Now,
never.
He had a quarterback go to federal prison, Chuck. Of course he wouldn't have made that decision.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No.
And by the way,
no.
When that guy got out, the first thing he did was sue that quarterback. First thing he did with Mike when he got out of prison was he sued Mike to get all the bonus money and everything back, to get the money back from him. He sued the guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Arthur Blank, he's definitely in a different headspace now, in comparison back in the day. Yep.
Right. At this point, the optics don't really matter. Execute. Like if you're focused on optics, and I get your point, Chuck. I mean, about cutting a guy that you paid $20 million to a year and everything.
But I'm with Mark. I'm with you though. I'm look. If he can't fit the scheme, what's the point of having him? Right. I mean, Bill Parcells said, if I can make my 53rd spot on the roster better, then I go do that. So I'm with you. I'm just telling you what I think from part of what the Falcons themselves think about this. Brother, if he's not fitting, then move on. Because you got to try out Michael Walker, keep it kind. I don't care who, whatever, Troy Anderson, whatever you want to give me out there. If you think they're a better fit, play those guys and move on. Don't have the loyalty to somebody that you just want to keep him around because you think he can mentor or whatever nonsense that you throw out there in the world of sports, to do all of these things. If he doesn't fit your system and scheme, move on. Hell, what the hell does the cap matter this year anyway at this point? What difference does it make? They got no cap space or lots of cap space. Hell, it don't matter at this point. You're done at this point with the cap.
Yeah.
Like Chuck mentioned, they've moved on from a scheme standpoint, right? We understand that he doesn't fit into the scheme. And two, they moved on from a personnel standpoint. They literally drafted an inside linebacker in the second round. They brought in Kiewikowski. They brought in Rashawn Evans. All those guys fit the scheme from the scheme standpoint and the personnel standpoint. You've moved on in two ways. All you got to do now, just get them off the roster. Because that's all that's left to do right now at this point.
All right. Any parting shots here, John Chucker, before we sign off for the day?
No, look, I'll be honest with you. I'm glad preseason's about over. I like this 3-game stuff, and I'm ready for it to be over. And I'm ready to get in. I want to see the 53-man roster, and let's go. Let's get all this stuff done and over with, and let's get ready for real football.
Jarvis,
I will go. Arthur Smith is telling you a story if he doesn't understand who's going to be the starter at that center position. Ain't no way in hell you're going to wait till Tuesday to figure that out. He knows. He just hadn't made a decision. He just hasn't come out with it yet.
All this said, gentlemen, Falcons plus 4.5 week 1 at home against the Saints.
Love it.
It's already on the card. It's already on the card. All right. That'll do it for our second Locked On Sports Atlanta Hangout here. Make sure you guys give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On ATL. You can see our Twitter handles down below. But if you're just listening in the audio, it's John Chuckery. It says JM, so I said sorry there, Chucks. I apologize.
I have slightly more hair.
Yeah, there you go.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. JMCH316.
And I'm not married. I'm not married either.
True. John Chuckery. Jarvis D90 for Jarvis Davis. I'm at Markzino, MARKZINNO. We appreciate you guys staying with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Coming up over 3,000 subscribers. Guys, only been at this, not even 6 months yet. So we appreciate all the support that you guys have shown Locked On Sports Atlanta. Check out all the shows. John Chuckery is hitting hard. Jarvis Davis has ATL Day Ones with Tanisha Batiste. Locked On Falcons, Locked On Hawks, our Braves postcast with Grant McCauley. And, of course, I have A to Z every single day right here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. You guys have a wonderful Friday. Have a great weekend. Don't take the crap from me. We'll see you all on Monday.